Get back. I've got soap, and I'm not afraid to use it. Back, foul creature. Back to the pit from whence you came.
Prologues have a bad reputation. They tend to be boring and unnecessary, filled with tiresome exposition about the lives of characters we've only just met and likely don't care about. This is a problem in books more than movies, but movies can also fall victim to bad prologues. They're often used as an easy way to explain important information without putting in the effort to make people actually care about the backstory or the characters. It ends up feeling like a drawn-out history lesson that viewers have to sit and wade through to get to the actual plot of the movie. The beginning of a film is essential to hooking viewers in. An adult prologue is an easy way to lose viewers' interest. What is all this backstory and why should we care? Atlantis: The Lost Empire is a perfect example of a strong prologue. Atlantis as a whole is a great movie for many reasons. Stunning visuals, gripping action, and a charming cast of characters. But the opening sequence is an essential part that ties all of it together into a solid, well-written story. The importance of Atlantis' prologue is especially clear when compared to what it was originally going to be.
Once upon a time, in a faraway land.
A good prologue gives key background information in an engaging way, and sets the tone for the rest of the film. The engaging part is where many movies fall flat. Usually this ends up being an info dump, with the narrator telling viewers all the important backstory from start to end. The best prologues, however, don't actually start at the very beginning of the story. They start right in the middle, at a pivotal scene, teasing the backstory rather than giving it all away. Starting at the middle is a common rule for writing openings in general, but it applies to prologues too, even though prologues take place before the actual start of the movie. It's a great technique to get the audience invested in the story right away, leaving them with more questions and answers, and making them want to continue watching to learn more. Atlantis does this perfectly. The movie starts right in the middle of the action, showing the final moments before the island is completely submerged. There's no narration, aside from a short quote at the start of the scene. There's very little dialogue because there's no need for it. With very few words, the opening conveys strong emotional storytelling, using imagery to its full advantage. From the crashing waves, frantic crowds, and ominous lights and colors, audiences understand right away that Atlantis is doomed, on the verge of being destroyed. A young girl's mother is taken away by an unknown entity, and part of Atlantis sinks into the sea while the ocean destroys the rest of it. By the end of the scene, the audience is left with so many questions. Why was Atlantis attacked? What happened to the queen? What became of Atlantis? It's an intense, action-packed opening, conveying equal parts backstory and mystery, all in the span of 2 minutes. Originally, instead of the fall of Atlantis, the opening scene focused on a group of Vikings. The original prologue shows the Vikings using the Shepherd's Journal to find Atlantis, who are then attacked by an unseen creature, leaving only the journal behind. This opening sequence was completely animated, fully colored, but scrapped entirely for the opening we see in the actual movie. This was a risky change, but absolutely crucial. On the surface, the original opening is similar to the final one. It's intriguing, action-packed, has a sense of mystery, and hints at important information with little exposition. But the Shepherd's Journal is not nearly as important as Atlantis itself. The journal is merely a tool to find Atlantis, so it doesn't need the build-up that this opening provides. Milo explains the importance of the journal in the next scene anyways, and is given the journal almost immediately, making the mysterious opening redundant. The change from the original to final prologue is the perfect example of the show and tell rule. An interesting piece of backstory like the sinking of Atlantis should be shown to audiences, while a less important piece of information like the journal should be told, giving viewers the crucial information they need about the journal in a quick, succinct way. The prologues also differ in one crucial element: character. Movies tend to introduce the main characters as soon as possible so that viewers can get to know them and connect with them. Delaying their introduction can be disastrous, since it makes them seem less important to the story. Milo and the crew are introduced fairly quickly, so their introduction isn't delayed and they're not affected by being absent in both the original and final prologues. The problem with the original prologue, however, is that Kida is absent. She's the most important character in the story, but she only appears 40 minutes into the movie, much later than everyone else. Since the first half of the film focuses on the journey to find Atlantis, audiences don't actually see Kida, the king, or Atlantis until late into the movie. The final prologue differs from the original by focusing on Kida's family, introducing them immediately along with the rest of Atlantis. Showing Atlantis' tragic demise is key to making audiences care about the lost city and the Atlanteans. Seeing Kida lose her mother in such a frightening way is especially impactful. Even though Kida is mostly absent from the first half of the movie, audiences have already formed a connection with her through this prologue. When she finally appears again, later in the movie, it doesn't feel random but instead feels intentional, promising to audiences that their questions from the opening will finally be answered. The original prologue also features the Vikings, not the Atlanteans. If the filmmakers had gone with the original prologue, this would have been detrimental. It gives a misleading sense of importance to the Vikings, who aren't mentioned or featured again for the rest of the movie, while making the Atlanteans seem less important. Without this scene, we wouldn't see Atlantis at all until midway through the movie. For a movie titled Atlantis, it would have been a little underwhelming to not have even a glimpse of the city for most of the film. What reason would there be to care about this place, or what happens to it? How would we know what makes it so special, besides being lost? Without this new prologue, audiences wouldn't get the chance to connect with Kita or Atlantis, and the movie would have been much weaker. It wouldn't have carried the same emotional weight or intrigue. As the directors of the film point out in the behind-the-scenes bonus features, shifting the focus to Kita was the main reason for changing the prologue entirely. It was an expensive, costly change, but incredibly worth it.
But ultimately, the director has to stop one night and say, you know what? It's a cool sequence. It just doesn't belong in this story. There's 50,000 ways you can tell the story about a bunch of explorers that make it to Atlantis. What's the most compelling? What's the most emotional? What's the way that we really want to relate to the characters on the screen?
The opening affects how the rest of the movie is perceived. While both prologues are interesting, the final prologue is much more vital to the story. It adds key context to the plot, sets up the fantastical world of Atlantis, and introduces characters that are pivotal to the movie. It's the perfect example of a prologue that is absolutely essential, and without it, the movie would suffer. When done right, a strong prologue can tease centuries of history and reveal intricate world building in just a few minutes, elevating the movie rather than weighing it down.
I love it when I win.
Thank you so much for watching. What are some of your favorite movie prologues? Some of my favorite prologues follow Atlantis' formula, an action-packed opening with a bit of mystery. Titan AE has a similar apocalyptic-style prologue as Atlantis, since it shows the destruction of Earth and the young main character's parents sacrificing themselves to save the world. What are your favorites? Let me know in the comments!